Hi, everyone. This week we are here with Eman Zabi. She's the founder of Scribesmith, which is a copywriting, I'll ask you what to call it properly later, but agency. They help people with copywriting and they're very good at it. And she is currently making 6 to 7 times what she was making in her previous job. So that's pretty awesome. But thanks for coming on and let's get into how this all got started.
Sure. So when I kind of stumbled into this industry like most people do, and oddly enough, because of a podcast, I was a fresh grad, was unemployed, heard a podcast about people who could, type words into the internet and make money. And I'm like, I would like to try that. Never heard of copywriting before and gave it a shot and kind of built this up while I had a full-time job on the side. And now this is like 3 years on, team of 13. My personal salary is like 6 or 7 times what it was. We have like three arms to the business where we have, we're creating physical products, we're creating our own course platform, and then we have an agency. So lots happening.
Wow. I like that description of copywriting. Type words into the internet to make money, which is
Accurate.
pretty
To make
much
other
what it
people
is.
money, but also to make us money. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So you would have been what, like 21 or 22 then?
Yeah. 22.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And what gave you the inkling that like you could just do that, right? Like you have a job and then you're like, oh, I could do this. Like, where did that come from?
So I was actually unemployed when I started this up. The economy was really bad. This is back in 2016. Towards the end of 2016, things weren't looking too good, especially if you have a useless degree like political science. Don't do it. Just don't do it. And I started, blogging, and people started noticing my work. And then they were like, "Can we pay you for this?" I'm like, "Yes, please." And then as I kind of started digging into that, I was sent a link to the Copywriter Club podcast. And up until that point, I didn't even know copywriting existed. Like I would have thought, intellectual property or something like that. And that's when things kind of shifted for me. I eventually did get a job. I think it was maybe April 2017. And up until this point, I was making like maybe 400 or 500 bucks a month. So nothing crazy. I wasn't in North America at the time. I was in Qatar. So it was like enough money to like maybe eat out for a month, but like nothing crazy. Like I couldn't pay rent with it. So I had to get a full-time job. And yeah, eventually, I think by November of that year, I was making enough to quit my job, move to Canada, and not have to look for a job here. It was fairly quick. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting the sense that like you don't second guess yourself that much. Is that
I
true?
don't. I'm very much a leap before you look kind of person.
Yeah. How how did that develop? Because that is not all that common in my experience, at least.
I don't know. I mean, I get that question a lot, actually. I think part of it is from, having a background in martial arts and things like that. You have to like really, I mean, you have to like, I mean, it's just gonna sound really cliche, and I hate to be Mr. Miyagi about this, but you have to commit to a punch, otherwise you're gonna get hurt. And that kind of, yeah. And so that was ingrained in me really early on. I've been doing martial arts since I was like 6 or 7. It's been a huge part of my life. I used to compete and all of that. So yeah.
That's really cool. I'm a fake martial art person because I did Muay Thai for like 4 months. What kind of martial arts do you do?
I well primarily Shotokan karate, but I've also done some taekwondo, some Muay Thai, some kickboxing. Karate is definitely like my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Somebody else that I interviewed was talking about kind of his background in sports and how that parlayed over into certain attributes of how he runs his company. What else do you feel like comes from that background and that training that you use in your business now?
Like I would love to say discipline, but I have none. but I'm like, but I think resilience is definitely part of it. It, I mean, I think people come into this industry thinking it's going to be like, I mean, at least I know that I was a little bit delusional coming into this thinking it's going to be like, it's going to be great. I'm going to be, living the laptop life. It's going to be easy, but it's not. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. And I think the whatever I got from my background karate just helped me kind of push through. And I've had some pretty rough years like on the personal side. Like I was running this business while my mom was hospitalized and I was her primary caretaker, all of that kind of stuff. And this was like, I was like 23, never had to deal with anything like that before. So running those kind of things, I think it helps you one compartmentalize because you're able to kind of clear your mind and focus. There's definitely that part of it, but yeah, overall resilience, grit, probably.
Yeah, I mean that's a really hard thing. Talk to us about what those, like you mentioned, it's not this dream that you thought it was going to be. What actually happened for you?
Sure. So when I remember when I made my first $23 online, I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm gonna like be minting money, and I like started doing um, the kind of math people have on sales pages, like, oh, you're gonna have 20 clients a month at $1,000, you're making 20 grand a month, and you're set. Nobody ever really talks about how much work getting those 20 clients is, how much it is like on the like how much bandwidth it actually takes mentally to kind of keep all those balls up in the air. And I didn't realize how much I would get in my own way because I was so young and so immature and no real work experience at that point. How much I really didn't know about how things worked. Plus, coming from a totally different cultural and work background as well, there's just the learning curve was so steep that when I look back at who I was in like 2015, early 2017, I don't fully even recognize that person anymore.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. I was starting my first company and I made $100. I was like, all right, if I do this 10 times a week and then I do that every week, then I'll make this amount of money and that's going to be easy. And then you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Get hit with a hard dose of reality. What happened? Like, what was that waking up like for you, to go from who you were then to now? Like, what were the kind of big lessons from that?
I think I had to, so I felt like I was, the kid at the grown-ups table, but with that kind of came the expectation that people would like, treat me like a kid as well. Like, okay, if I screw up, it's fine. I'm not a real business. I'm just like a 20 something sort of thing. And that was not not the most professional way to kind of come across as well for obvious reasons. But it also meant that I had to really learn that people were actually trusting me with their money, and therefore I had to deliver and actually do really good work that um, I could justify the kind of rates I was charging. I mean, I wasn't charging very much at that point, but it still felt very like there was that I didn't feel like a kid had the right to kind of charge those rates. And it meant that I had to kind of grow into the shoes that I already had built for my business. And like I had to emotionally mature into my business. And that was really challenging for me. I'm also incredibly introverted, like really shit. I'm the most introverted person on the planet. But you can't really be that way if you have a business. You have to like be able to show up on podcasts, you have to talk about yourself and things like that. But I'm a fairly solution oriented person. So I went out and hired a speaking coach. So just, get over my fear of like speaking to another human being on camera. Um, and I think I continually invested in myself, which really helped.
Mm, mm. Do you have, because if I can resonate with the story, I could imagine that there were some hard situations, like you spoke about being the kid at the grown-ups table and then having to learn that you can't necessarily do that. Were there any like specific instances where clients got really upset or things didn't go right?
I mean, there were some very close calls, which were enough to like put the fear in me. And I was coming out of like, you know how it is in college. Like if you don't hand something in, the only person that affects is your grade. And I was totally okay with that. I was the kind of person who really gave no shit about how my grade was affected when I was in university. I never kind of attached my idea of self-worth to my grades, and I was totally okay with the fact that my I got a C for not handing in something or a B minus for not handing in something. But you can't really carry forward that mentality into a business if you're being paid for something. And deadlines are deadlines; they're not suggestions. So that kind of stuff. There were lots of nights where I would have to scramble till 3 or 4 a.m. just to get something in to a client, and it would not be my best work. And it would reflect in the kind of comments that they were kind of giving and like with their feedback, and it would mean more rounds of edits and things like that. I kind of caught on soon enough, like it didn't end in like a really big blowout or losing any clients, thankfully. But yeah, it just I needed to take it more seriously than I did in like the first 4 months, 5 months.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And you mentioned, um, well, the popular term for this is self care. Um, but you mentioned like growing yourself as a way of growing your business. At least that's what it sounded like. What other kinds of things you do in terms of like you got the speech coach? Like, were there other things that really made a difference for you in terms of, once I worked on this part of myself, I could see it play out in my public persona as this business?
Sure. Hiring a mindset coach or rather working on a mindset coach was really helpful as well. Um, I think because like the business has grown so fast, I hadn't really had the chance to deal with a lot of those things that were just kind of being shoved under the rug, and I needed to really sit down and address all of that, which was really helpful for me. Investing in mentorship, I've invested in mentorship pretty much from day one, and I think that's really helpful. It's been really helpful to see how other people see me rather than how I perceive myself. And that's been helpful because I don't, again, a lot of this is cultural, a lot of this is like, being a woman, things like that. There's a tendency to like self deprecate, which um, was is not ideal, again, if you're trying to build a business. Like, so, again, working with people who saw value in my work and respected it, despite the fact that, I was young, and people who were giving me opportunities and trusted me with those things, that was really helpful as well.
Mm. Do you have like peer peer groups as well? Because like you mentioned, mentors were important. Do you have like other founders that you kind of have, I don't know, think tank or just somebody to bounce ideas off or just like talk about when you're having a bad day?
Yeah, for sure. I'm in one right now. I've been in, I think this is probably the fourth one that I'm in. And I honestly, most of the agency side was built from leads that came in to my peers. And like till today, I think like 95, 99% of all of our leads on the agency side still come from word of mouth and referrals from my network. We've done very little paid advertising or anything like that for our own business. So yeah.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, and how do you go about that? Because I feel like, to get on the strategic side for a second, people, in what I've seen, mess this up a lot. Like they join groups with the purpose of selling, but it sounds like you've brought in leads, but I would imagine that you're not just going in being like, "Hey guys, I have this thing." How do you show up?
So I think it depends on the kind of group you're in, number one. If you're in a group where, for example, I'm in a group with other copywriters, so there isn't, my target audience isn't other copywriters. I'm not really going to be selling anything in that group. But if I can show up and kind of show that I do good work and like become known for good work by, being helpful and providing advice and things like that, and become known in my niche, And if they have leads come in that aren't necessarily good fits for them, or they have bandwidth issues, and it's a good fit for my niche, then they just send them my way. It's really, and I do the same whenever I have something that isn't a good fit for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just having
Yeah,
friends that
basically friends.
think of you.
The secret to
Uh,
business success, friends. There you go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm curious, what's on your mind today? Like you have a team now, you're growing. Um, what's on your mind day to day in terms of where you want to head?
Well, right now, it's we have a launch coming up on October 19th, and it's just like everything is focused on that one launch. We have built our own course platform. We work primarily with course creators, and we saw a couple of issues in the space where people are, the best and the most popular courses aren't necessarily the best ones. They're, just the ones with the best marketing teams. And there's like this fundamental problem of quality control in the course space. And like us personally, like our team alone has spent around 20 grand on bad courses alone. And yeah, I wasn't joking when I said we invest heavily. um, so we wanted to create a platform where we would vet every course that goes up. So almost like a curated course platform for entrepreneurs. And everybody who, anyone who wants to host their course on our platform, we're hosting it for free. We're marketing it for free. We just take like 25% of total revenue. So like ad spend, everything comes out of our end. And we've developed the platform ourselves, and it goes live on October 19th. So there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yep.
It's like a full platform where you can build courses too?
Um, well, you'd have to like build it elsewhere and just upload the video content. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Oh, still, that's like a lot of stuff. It's like a lot of
Especially for
moving
someone with
parts.
no programming background whatsoever.
That's Did you hire people or did you build it? You build it yourself.
I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's
I
very
have a lot
impressive.
of concealer on, hiding the dark circles that I have from not sleeping for the last 3 months.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
That's good old software development. We know all about that. That's very exciting. October 19th. And what's it called?
It's called terrain.
Wait, say it again.
Terrain, like, know the
Oh,
terrain. Yeah.
okay. I like that. That's very cool. Awesome. Well, anybody listening, this will go out before October 19th. So you can check
Get
out
on our wait
Terrain.
list. Yeah.
Yeah. Terrain. I think I saw it was terrain.io.
Yeah.
I think I already looked at this. Yes. Perfect. Awesome. Cool. Well, I will wrap it up here, but thank you for coming on. I think this is we haven't had martial arts as the like the
Origin
background
story.
for starting companies. So I like that a lot. I think it's very cool. So yeah, thank you for coming on and sharing that with us.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.